call this meeting to order, I'd ask that our superintendent lead us in our invocation pledge.
Correct, please. Father, just thank you, Lord, for the honor and privilege it is to serve. Lord, just thank you, Lord, for the good school year, the kids and the openings that we had. And we just give you all the glory and honor for that. Lord, we just ask that you be with us tonight, receiving our words of praise, that everything we say and everything we do is not only pleasing to you. We ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. At this time, I will accept the motion to adopt the agenda. Second. There's a motion and a second. If there are no objections, we will pass this by general consent. Seeing none, we'll adopt the agenda. At this time, we welcome any visitors that we have that would like to address the board on a non-agenda item. We cannot vote on non-agenda items, but we do like to hear your input. We limit discussion about 5 minutes. Is there anybody that would like to address us? Good to see that. We like input, but tonight is I'll go ahead and preface everything tonight.
Yeah.
We have an employee whose mother recently passed away. So we're running kind of a skeleton crew. You'll see over here. One of our board members' mother just got out of the hospital. We're not trying to short this meeting, but with those extenuating circumstances, we are going to try and breeze through this one pretty quick so that the member can get to their mother and we can further show our condolences to Candy D. I appreciate y'all understanding that. At this time, we'll call on John Lott to present our comprehensive student progression plan.
Good evening. Let me begin by saying that this has been a long process and has taken the teamwork of a large team. This thing is called comprehensive for a reason. It was well over 200 pages. We had teams at the elementary level, and Candy Dean led that team and headed that up. And then we had a secondary team, and I kind of headed up that team. And we started this process back in April. And some of the issues that we were seeing with our old comprehensive student progression plan was some outdated language. Outdated language. In particular, for example, we saw where there was reference to one item that was based on a statute in 2007 that had, been changed in 2008. So there were some things in there that needed to be addressed and fixed. There was a lot of repeated information. It just kept repeating itself. You have the information for elementary, you may have the same information for middle school, and then the same information for high school. So we tried to condense that information. A lot of times the information that was in the comprehensive student progression plan went beyond what was required by statute. And so we looked at those things and we really tried to narrow our focus. And really on page 7, and I'm going to reference a few pages. Believe me, I'm not going through this entire thing and all the changes. I'm going to try to just reference a few things for your attention. And but obviously on page 7, it sort of gives you an introduction. It really tells you the statutory requirement. It points to the statute that is required by us. Basically, the pupil progression plan outlines the student's progression from one grade to another, on up through graduation, and those graduation requirements and the student performance that is needed in order to graduate from the Newton County school system. So that's really the focus, and we tried to keep the focus of this document pretty narrow and relegated to just that. Now, you'll see sometimes the lines get blurred and we go outside and cut outside the lines a little bit, but in general, I think the committee and the groups that we had did a really good job of condensing and narrowing this down. So a lot of this stuff is a result of changes in legislation. For example, on page 14, you see there's some new legislation in regard to educational opportunities for military families and some of the things that we have to give them some special consideration. So we've added that kind of information, and you'll see changes in legislation throughout the document that we had to address. On page 21, midway down, you'll see a new item that's regarding blended learning and virtual school, high school courses, and then those courses that have state EOCs and how they fit into the attendance policy. Some of these courses are competency-based courses. They have a little bit different requirement in regard to attendance. Some of these courses are virtual, true virtual. Obviously, if it's a true virtual course, they're not sitting in the classroom. So those kind of things we addressed. And then the state EOCs, there are state EOCs which the student, regardless of attendance, in fact, the student may take a test and not even be in the class, but they can take the test and still get credit for that class by virtue of passing the EOC. So we kind of took that into consideration. 28, on page 28, there is some, again, an item there in regard to instructional materials, and as a result of new legislation. And then further down, there's some new legislation in regard to reading requirements, and also our PE requirements, which we have addressed, but has become, sometimes as a scheduling concern for particularly our elementary schools. On page 32, I want to call your attention to page 32. This is the new grade conversion proposal that we had previously brought to the board in regard to how we convert grades that come in from outside entities. They may come in from out of state. They may come in, for example, with just an A, and in order for us to convert that to a numerical value, in the past, you see what we've done, an A was converted to a 95. So our proposal is to convert that to 100 and so forth and so on. We went over this the other day. And the same thing with any numerical grades that may come in, for example, with dual enrollment classes. A student is at Central Florida taking a dual enrollment class and they get an A. They come back to us under the old system, the highest they could get was a 95. Even though they're taking a rigorous advanced class. A student who may be taking a PE class, which I'm not saying that PE is not rigorous. I used to hate to run in Coach Rose and Coach Vickers' class all the time, but it's still not academically as rigorous as a dual enrollment class. So, when we look at those kind of things, I feel like that this is a little more equitable to those kids in dual enrollment that are challenging themselves and striving to do better. And then, of course, we've talked about the end-of-course exam conversions, and that's part of this as well. A student who makes a level 5 would get 100, and a level 4 would get an 89, and so forth and so on. On page 44, I just want to point out there were some things that were deleted there. Not only did we sometimes add new parts to this because of changes in legislation, but this is an example of a piece that had to be removed from the previous pupil progression plan because of new legislation. And that's because of House Bill 7069, there was a course that we had been required to give to our middle school kids. Career and education planning actually wasn't a course, it was a piece of a course that we were required to make all the middle school kids go through for several years. That was repealed by House Bill 7069. So we took that out. So those are just some examples. Page 53, it talks about, we put in there all master schedules shall be submitted to and approved by the superintendent based upon deadlines set by the office, and there will be an approved listing of courses adopted by the district. And the reason that has become important is because every course that we give at the secondary level has to be tied to an EOC of some sort. And so when we have just a few people that sometimes have to create those EOCs, mostly it's Bar Rivers, to tell you the truth, when you start adding a bunch of different courses, well, that's a whole bunch of extra district inter-course exams that she has to create. So we just want to be sure that, if we create one, test that is being used by all the schools, and not one, 100 different tests that may be unnecessary. So we added that in. On page 56, I want to call your attention to an example of something else that we really tried to do. This old document had a lot of things that were just listed, and you'll see this time and time again in some of those deleted items. Instead of every year going and get the newest document from a DOE site and adding it to the comprehensive student progression plan, what we did instead was we added the link. And so now all we really need, we refer to the link that takes them to the DOE website, and we would hope, although sometimes we never know, but we would hope that the DOE website is the most accurate and the most correct. And so that should, all we need to do now is go make sure that they've updated their site, we update our link and make sure it's a good link. And I think that in the future, that'll save us a lot of time and effort in moving forward. On page 68, I just want to call your attention to, we do have a new articulation agreement we started last year with the University of Florida for dual enrollment. So we've added that. We still have that this year. I know we have one student from Cedar Key that is in dual enrolled in the University of Florida's dual enrollment online program this year as well. I'll just tell you, there's a sort of report back. Our kids that were in there last year, we had 4 first semester, 3 second semester. They all did excellent in this program.
Very good thing.
So it has been a very positive thing for our kids and really for our schools.
Lot, you said that dual enrollment, was this like online dual enrollment, or they were?
It's
they
dual
were not
enrollment.
actually leaving to physically sit in?
No, sir. In fact, this is they want to allow a high school kid now outside of Alachua County. Now, I think they may hedge a little bit with Alachua County, but they want to allow a kid outside of Alachua County to dual enroll at the University of Florida on site.
Used to, but they don't anymore.
Now it's all online.
Thank you.
Mr. Lyle, I've got a question with that. With choice, do you think we'll be to the point where if a kid wanted to do the University of West Florida, that we would, is that coming down the pipe, do you think?
We've had that conversation, and I've had the conversation, as a matter of fact, with NEPEC this week about putting them on NEPEC's legislative agenda. Again, I think it depends upon where you're at and what district you are. To me, it's a no-brainer. It makes a whole lot of sense for your kids to go where you want them to go. And especially because, and where I get mad is that our geography makes it challenging for us to where, we have a lot of options that are closer for our kids, and if they want to go to Santa Fe or CF, and it doesn't matter, I want them to go, or University of Florida or Gateway. But, the kids ought to be able to go and do what the parents want them to do.
I know we had the conversation, you and I, with Representative Stone, to kind of open that door to allow that. So just to continue that, because knowing that if they want to talk choice out of one side of the mouth, then we need to make sure and stay consistent to be able to provide our kids opportunities. So.
And so that's, I have a note on my desk because I need to talk with one of the board members. Who's it going to your FSBA representative?
I think it's going to be.
Okay. And I need to talk with you about that because I'm looking at Ruth Melton's email, and that's one of the things as I've talked with NEPEC. NEPEC, of course, does with the rural districts, and it's one thing, and I don't know that I'll make it on that platform, but it's one of the things to talk to the FSBA.
We met last week by phone and by computer, so about kind of
when it's time for my comments at the end, I'll make another.
Yes, sir. I just, sorry to interrupt, but no problem.
But point won't take, and agree with you.
Why can't they do them more courses wherever they want to have them, it stops there, just, we got that contract with the,
You can, but we, by statute, we will enroll, I don't know what the technical term is, our college that we're assigned to is Central Florida College.
oh, you're assigned to it?
Yes, sir. Citrus, Levy, and Marion. Central Florida College is our college. Now, they have been very good in working with us, but we have to go through them for our kids to go somewhere else.
Every kid that wants to go to Santa Fe, for example, we have to write a letter, and I have to sign it and send it to them, and I basically ask permission, ask for their blessing for us to be able to send our kids, like our Bronson kids, 8 miles to the Davis Center in Archer.
And the reason why that's such an issue, Terry, is because if we were to go to the new Levy campus, you're talking about 3 periods of the day that you're going to take up in travel time. So one period to get over there, a period to be there, then a period to get back versus 8 miles down the road. So
Like with our Williston kids, if they want to go to do a moment, the Davis Center is 11 miles.
I can see the politics in that, it's probably money.
very much so. Yes, sir.
On the bottom of page 68, I just want to point out 2 things to you. There's a comment there that should have been added into that paragraph. I caught that as I was meticulously going through that this afternoon and this morning. And so we have addressed that and we have changed that. And there's also one more of these comments that should have been added on page 47. Those have been taken care of, but just so you know, the comments have been added into the text as they're written in the comment sections, okay? On page 77, I just want to show you that also one of the things, as we change board policies, we have to address that in the comprehensive pupil progression plan as well. On page 77, you'll see that the board did make a change in regard to the VAL and SAL, and we reflected those changes in there. It's really simpler and cleaner than it was before. And let's see.
Can you tell me what the difference is of Sal and the sewer department?
Basically, when you go through and make a policy change, it's a 4-year cycle. And so we're cleaning out, we went to a local weighting as opposed to the Florida Academic Scholars weighting. And so it was a matter of cleaning up that language. And basically that was a big change. And you can see what the striking language is possible.
So you decided it's weighted here.
The board does, yes, through their policy.
But what if there's a tie, or is that possible?
Well, the policy addresses it, and there has been ties, and if there's a tie, then we have to.
Last thing on page 99, I just want to point out that there was a lot of new legislation also from ELL. ELL, I'll tell you, ESOL, ELL, that's becoming a bigger project or issue. I don't know. I know that there's a lot of legislation that's come down recently, and so we've changed that policy. It's becoming very much like ESC in a lot of ways, as far as the requirements and the paperwork and things that we have to track. So I just want to make you aware of that again, that's some new legislation, but a lot of it is ESOL, ELL. And then I want to also point out towards the end, you'll see that we have eliminated a lot of the appendices, a lot of the administrative forms, and things like that. The administrative forms we're going to drop into a shared electronic file for the principals. We call it ClassLink. It's a system we have, so basically we drop those in there, and the principals can access those through that file sharing system. And because really, it didn't have anything to do, these administrative forms really had nothing really to do with pupil progression, movement from one grade to the other. These were strictly administrative forms that we found a new home for. That's about it. I know that's a lot. As you can see, it's a big document. You can also see all the changes that we made. And I'm telling you, we started this in April, and we worked. It took a lot of work from a lot of different people. You had ESC, you had ESOL, you had elementary, you had secondary, you had a bunch of people working on this, and they did a great job. And are there any questions that we haven't addressed?
We'll go back to page 32. When the court's examination version, we had a discussion at the last meeting, and I asked the question, and of course, been a lot of time between there and now, I followed the process, but I asked the question, does that put us and our students in Levy County still at a disadvantage of any other school district in the state?
Yeah, probably a very, very few, but some, sure. Some that basically say if you pass, you get 100. Regardless if you made a level 3, which in our version here would be a C. That person who got a C would be at a disadvantage compared to another district that they just give everybody 100. Kind of like a little league version of grading. But yes, it puts us at a disadvantage against some districts.
Caveat of that, where I guess I'm going to recreate it all, but we started the process quite some time ago. We've gone to Tallahassee to effect change. I think they recognized the problem. But I think this is where I sit today, is if we had a student graduate Bronson High School today, and there were 2 scholarships left at the University of Florida, and one was from Bronson, and another was from one of those counties, who gave 100 because they passed. He gets in above our Bronson student, I got a problem. Until they effect change in Tallahassee, which we've already tried to do, which I think we are doing over time. It's not happening as fast as it should be, but we're graduating a class, if not 2 classes, before that change be effective.
Well, I can, first off, speak to, when we went to Tallahassee, our ask was for the DOE, for the legislature to give DOE rulemaking report. When Chris and I and Katrina were sitting with Representative Stone, first off, what has happened is, for the most part, most years, a lot of school districts, not most of them, have taken the 30% EOC portion and have made it promoted. Because they've adopted policies such that even if it would change your grade, they're not going to hold the grade harmless. Okay? So my last comment to Representative Stone, what would you like to see? Let's get rid of the whole thing and let the schools and the teachers do their job. Okay? So that's my last recommendation. Now, for me, as recommendation, when you come see the guidance, the adopt thing, and where the guidance says that the intention is for level 5 to be an A, and level 4 to be a B, and level 3 to be a C. So I think that's what we have done here, and that is our recommendation. And I can, so that comes here from the guidance document. But by statute, there is only one requirement, only one that I know of, and that is for that exam to count 30%. And that's it. And I will tell you of what.
As I said at one of the last board meetings, it does, I walk a fine line between wanting to do what I think is ethically right by us, following what the statute says, but also realizing that puts our kids at a disadvantage. And I don't know that out of our meeting, that Representative Stone, not to put him on the spot, I think that we obviously have time. If I took my gut feeling coming from that meeting, that it probably would not be something that he really wanted to get into the weeds. Sorry.
My question will be this. What's the least impact that EOC can have? Is this the least impact we can have on our students and teachers? Well, yeah, so
Everyone's going to impact, it's just how do you want to impact?
the least.
Okay.
So how do we do it? Do we go all the way, if you pass, you get 100, then there's not a student in the state
But
of
that's going to
Florida?
impact. Okay, because it's going to impact it up.
Well, positive impact, I should say.
So this right here, when you do some of the math, as long as it's, unless you have a student that, say, scores a 59, okay? The 70% is the greatest impact on the thing. A 59 would lower a B to maybe a C. Okay? But more than likely, if you fall within, and I'm not sit there, not going to do math, but if you fall within a grade up or down, 1 or 2, it's not going to have any impact at all. If anything, the likelihood is this is going to raise because it's the top of the scale. You're going to get 100 for a 5 and you're going to get a 99 for a B. So it's not going to lower anything. But you're going to have, if you get two letters down, yes, you can look at it as impact.
Yeah, I guess where I'm at is I think it's fully fair now. I think where we were at is fully fair now. If you look at the singles, but what Mrs. Sistrum did, and we look at it from a statewide standpoint, my fear is we move this and we have fixed it. We're 75% fixed it. Because there still mathematically can be that one situation that comes up on a student. And that's my concern. I know this will make it better, and this will put us in the upper 2/3 of all districts that are doing this, but then we still have.
I mean, for example, suppose you have a kid that's got a 70 C. That's the lowest C you can get over 70%. And they get a D on this. Okay, they're going to end up with a C. It's not going to change it. If you got a kid that's got a .70 C and they get a 59, okay, that's going to be,
Can I say something?
Yeah.
As a principal, I've seen firsthand how hard it is to get a 5. A 5 on any of these state EOCs is very difficult, and it's quite an honor. And I think you're basically cheapening that accomplishment when you just say everybody passes gets 100. There's a difference between a level 5 and a level 3, in my opinion.
Well, I agree with you 1,000%. You just said that we're cheap. I think what the district and the board and the decision have to make in that is being enforced in that by the state of Florida, but not even in the score across the state of Florida. Come on.
Ms. Sistrum, you have a question?
I think another way to look at it is, I think that the 189, 79, 69, 59, it does decrease the ability to lower a score, but the 60, 80, 100, 100, 100 maximizes how much it can help a grade. So are we matching that? Are we trying to help our students as much as that, not just not hurt our students? Does that make sense?
You're saying C or above gets an A. Or
Well, that's the most
that's the most frequent.
gratuitous, that's the most lenient of the scores, so.
I may be totally wrong, but the entire time I've been in education, most of the time at the principal level and stuff, I did not allow my students to accept mediocrity. If a student just passes and gets that 100, we're saying, all you gotta do is just be mediocre. Mediocre, you're gonna get the top end of it. We have to live with ourselves with the decision. These other districts, they're cheap, as far as I'm concerned, with that. So if they can live with themselves cheating, be so be it. But I will never accept a student walking in to take any test, saying, well, all I got to do is pass this, and I'm gonna get the highest grade that I can there. I'm gonna get 100. I think the way y'all have scaled this, and evidently it is in line with a number of other districts, correct, Mr. Lott? Okay. Does it offer a disadvantage? Yeah. But to me, the bigger disadvantage to the student is if you structure something like this to where you accept mediocrity. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Any other questions out there?
I think you're setting them up to fail if you get, like what Mr. Turner said, if they get a C on it, they get 100, which is excellent. They're far from being excellent. So you're setting up for a future fail is what you're doing.
But you're also not letting your students be competitive with the students from other
Well, it's
districts.
not the student being
Being
managed, it's the
viewed-
system.
Being viewed for college acceptance or scholarships.
And I ask you, Ms. Sistrunk, just because you've done all this research, how many districts were doing that 100 C and above?
2.
2. And do we remember what counties those were?
Holmes and Washington, I think.
I believe that's-
I don't have.
I believe that's correct.
This is where I'm at on it. To me, it's an ethical question. And I view it as unethical to give a person a C 100. I think it's unethical on those counties' part to do it that way, because it doesn't give a true depiction of what the child has done. And I have 3 children that run all over that thing, all branches of what that grade would be. And just looking in my house, the one that I know could get a 5 will be sure enough aggravated at his brother that has the capability of doing that, but can go, look at that and go, if I just do what I got to, I'll get 100 too. So that, to me, that 100 across the board, yeah, it sounds great, but that kind of punishes that kid that's an overachiever. That's the way I look at it. And I think this is reflective of what the kid is actually doing in class. I think it, like I say, it won't really harm them. That's what I think. So I view it as an ethical question.
Can I make just one comment?
Sure.
I'll agree 100% with the ethical issue. If we want to go all the way back to be 100% ethical where we're at and go back where we were at when we started. Because it was fair and equitable, if the state of Florida would endorse that and we go across the state of Florida, we would. This is half ethical. Because we're going to take a 91 and make a 99 out of it. That's still embellishment. Am I wrong? I don't agree with going with a C or D to 100. I don't think it's right. But what I'm saying is I just want to make sure, I'm happy with this, okay? I just want to make sure everybody's comfortable with that there's still that potential that we have 1, 2, 3 students that somebody from Washington or Holmes County beats them out on a scholarship application because they embellish their scores more than we do. That's all I want to make sure everybody's comfortable with.
I do have my form with me, and there are 12 districts that, for the lowest level 1, 12 districts that score higher than a 59 for the lowest level. So it's not just 2. There are 12 that would give more than a 59. So it's,
But how many give a C of 100?
probably not many. But how many give more than a 79? Which is what
About
we're
C and 100.
I think 2.
Just a little bit of math. The range from how the range on here, when you break it down to 20%, the most points you can get, of course, is 130% of 130 points. The least points you can get is 59%, so 30% of 59 points is 17.7 points. So the range in points is 12.3 points.
Any further comments or questions? I'll entertain a motion this time to accept the comprehensive pupil progression plan. Is that right way to say that?
I'll make the motion to accept.
Student progression. Do I hear a second? You have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I would hope that we would continue this on our legislative platform, even though we know we may be going up against a brick wall. I think we should continue carrying this on this.
And again, I think the right answer is to get rid of the programs. So that's the only way we can do it.
That's good. All right,
I
any further?
have a
Yes, ma'am.
question. Yeah, Mr. Lott only said what is included in the student promotion plan, 59, 69, 79, 89, 90? I don't have a copy of it.
It's, for a level 5, we convert to 100, level 4, 89, a level 3, 79, a level 2, 69, and a level 1, 50. Basically, the reason we did that, those particular numbers, is because they matched up with what we wanted to do with the letter grades. So it always is consistent in that regard.
We wanted to bring also the higher, for those kids that do the dual enrollment, because all of your colleges give you letter grades. And we got to transpose it into a numerical system, but we wanted those college grades to come in at the higher end.
The only other question, so the conversion from other districts and dual enrollment, all of that would be unified, done the same way.
All right, if there's no further discussion, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Lott. Mr. Weber. Covering up anything?
I wanted to be able to come tonight and let you all know that I'm here to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Thank you, sir. I knew that moment was coming. By the way, I like your tie tonight.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. All right, we're going to do a reflection on what's been happening with our safety and security. And I've got some items that I want to hand out to you so that you can kind of go along with what's been happening since we began back in June. Just a big shout out to our superintendent, to our sheriff, to all of our school resource officers. The amount of work that's been going on over the last couple months has been outstanding, and the cooperation has been just incredible as we have been working to bring our schools to a high level on safety and security. So the first thing I've handed out to you as board members, and others can have copies of this, is kind of an update of what's been happening. Sergeant Long and I and a host of others were at a conference in Orlando, and for me it was my first time, and it was exceptional. There were outstanding speakers. After that, we began meeting in the month of July with all of our administrators and began working on our FSAT, which is our security risk assessment. And we met twice during the month of July because there was a deadline on August the 1st that had to have everything done and turned in to Tallahassee. Congratulations to all of our schools. Everyone was done and completed, and it was submitted by August 1st. Ours for the district will be due on the 31st of October. We're ready, close right now, to finalize that and bring that before the board for approval. So I'm looking forward to completing that. Another thing that we did, and I want to give this to you also, I hope I'm not going to overload you, but at least you'll have a good picture of what's been happening. Last week, Sergeant Long and I and the other SROs, we went to every school in our district, including our charter schools, and we did a risk assessment with an administrator and an SRO, and we were looking for the strengths, we were looking for the weaknesses, we were looking for areas that needed to be improved, and so we created this checklist, and it came right off of the FSAT. So you're kind of looking at that right there, and each administrator worked with us as we went through the process, and then we signed, and I brought that back to the district office. Another aspect of what we did and have done and we're doing right now, and I want to say thank you to Mr. Edison. He has permitted me, this week I've been in our schools. Tomorrow I will be over at Chiefland Middle High School, and let me split that so we don't have to. There we go. And what we did on our professional development day, this is just a breakdown, board members and others that are here this evening. We presented to faculty and staff at Schieffer Middle High School in the auditorium, and then also at First Baptist. And this is just a brief copy. There was a total of about 30 slides, and I also want to recognize Grant Sandlin because he worked with me on both sessions. And you'll see that what you'll cover as you look through this, our position stands not only statewide, but also here in our district, how we want to handle bullying issues. And then from there, there was a total of 13 techniques that we're going to be working on during the school year. For example, access point is number one. We stress this big time, both at the auditorium and at First Baptist. All doors must be locked on campus. And as you continue to look through, there's a total of 13. Mr. Light and I were talking today. Number 7, monitoring school visitors. That's in place now. So everyone's going to know when they come on campus, they're going to be recognized. There's going to be a slip. There's going to be a badge that they're going to carry so we know who's on campus. So this little packet of slides that I just handed to you is just a small breakdown on all that we covered on that particular day on August the 7th. Also, I didn't make a copy of this. There's about 25 slides that I've been working. I've already been to Williston Middle High School. I was at Bronson today. Tomorrow I'll be at Schieffer Middle High School working with students in the Focus Center, specifically in regards to how to handle threat situations, bullying moments that can take place, and then how to respond in regards to perhaps an active shooter or other issues. And we talked about the 3 Fs, and certainly not grade wise, that we have these options on the table. I almost would have our awesome sergeant mention these, but I won't put him on the spot right now. And I shared these with the kids, and I'll do it again tomorrow. We've got to make sure that we are either going to fight, we're going to flight, and the last thing we do not really want to do, we don't want to get in a freeze position, because that's when we are really susceptible to big-time injury. So that's the things that are going on with our schools. I'm really pleased with the response that I've had this week. Here is an overview of what I'll be sharing with you as we move towards October. And this comes from our FSAT. And this will cover our whole district. And I'm not going to take the time to read because many of you can read actually better than what I can. But you'll see that there are major breakdowns in regards to efficiency and effectiveness, in regards to the district leadership, the position here as it launches out to all of our schools. Health and safety planning. I was with Dr. Hall and Liz Smith this morning as we were working probably almost 2 hours in regards to mental health. And that fits underneath that category of health and safety planning. Discipline policies and the code of student conduct, and really working to emphasize a strong position against bullying on our campuses. And we certainly can talk about that even at the college level and specific universities that are struggling with that. School climate and community outreach, that's a part of the presentation that we're doing with the students on their PowerPoint. Safety programs, facilities and equipment, and let me also mention Breeze has been an incredible asset in regards to making sure that our facilities are ready and we've got the proper equipment. So thank you for your help. I appreciate that. Transportation, been working with Mr. Masters, and thank you, sir, for what you've been giving to me as input and the information in regards to better reception with radios, and then also the great job that you did prior to school starting with the transportation. So this is kind of an overview of the FSAT that we'll be presenting before we move to October 31st to get it approved. And I'm really pleased. We're only 2 months into it, but we're off to a great start. And we've got great support here, and cooperation has been seen in our schools, and I'm real pleased. And Dr. Hall has been working with me on the mental health aspect, and there's a lot of work that I did not realize that we're going to be doing there, and so we're after that task. So that's a quick overview. Any questions that you might have? I hope I didn't go too fast, but I wanted you to see what we've done for the district, what we're working with the students on right now. I've even had some phone calls with parents so that they can be aware, and they're very interested in what we're doing in regards to safety and security.
On your security risk assessment page, down there at the bottom, number 1 on the assessment,
Okay?
is a safe school officer, same thing as SRO, or you got other?
Awesome. That's a good question, Mr. Turner. That came from the FSAT website. I think in their mind, they're probably linking that. For us, we're really looking at school resource officers for each of our schools, but that information that you're talking about actually came from the website. Okay?
Because on number 3 on the back there, refer to it as an SRO.
Yes.
But basically, it is the same person, just.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that.
Yes, sir.
And an example of any monitoring system that's been set up for visitors in all schools, is that already in place?
In all schools, and we have finalized things right, if I'm correct on this. Chief Lynn Middle High School is squared away with that, and Bronson Middle High School. So we're all on the same page in regards to the monitoring.
An example, for example, we used to have at all of our elementary schools, we had a rapid program. Okay, where you had to come in, we've always had you come in and check in at all of our schools. Okay, at the elementary schools, we had a rapid system where you come in and the license was checked against a national database. That is now all of our schools. Now, and some of our schools, on which one this will probably.
Bronson and Chiefland, we have a different system. It's not a Raptor, it's called eSecurity. They're by a smaller firm. They're just starting in this business. So far, the customer service has been great. They're about half the price of Raptor. And they gave us a lot of freebies in regard to this. In return, we give them feedback on what a school might need in relation to this kind of school security software. So basically, it does the same exact thing as Raptor. You put your license in, it runs against the database, prints out your name tag, and you give that. And then also it tracks when they check in and when they check out as well. It also does things like the elementary schools. I can see this being a positive. As parent pickup, as the parents come through the line and pick up their parents, you can have somebody out there with a iPad and say, okay, so-and-so left with their parents, and check them off as they pick up. So there's a lot of advantages to this type of software as far as safety and security.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, Mr.
Mine's quick. It says hardening grant template, released August 31st. So are we applying for a grant, or is that our needs for hardening within the district?
Great. That template, when it comes out, and I just made contact again yesterday with Mr. Lib, I should say, in Tallahassee. When that comes out, that is a template that we want to fill, because there is grant money there that we want to connect to for all the needs that we have for safety and security.
Well, you had to go through, Mr. Lott talked about this earlier, there's always been that process where we have to go through and evaluate, but that process has always been at the district level, and the district submitted those plans. We've always had these drills in our schools, and each school, and we take this information and we bring it together as a district plan. Now, each school has to have their own plan, and that's the FSAT that's going on. And you take that information from that, and it goes up to there, and that's what's going to determine what we qualify for our hardening.
By school instead of by district?
Yes.
To the Raptor system, I will let you know that we are having an issue with it reading the new driver's licenses. So,
And that's with the Raptor system?
yes, sir.
Okay.
At least I know Cedar Key was having that problem on Friday. So.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Where do we stand with school resource officers? I know it's the start of the school year, Calvin hasn't even received a lot of money. So how many, do we have armed deputies in all the schools right now?
Yes. Yeah. But we don't have, all of our SROs are not all there, like, it's not all completed, but yes, there are deputies in all of our schools, and they're covering those schools. And Mr. Edison and Sheriff Bobby McCallum have been working, I'm going to almost use the word overtime, in making sure that we're set and we're ready. And again, I cannot say enough how effective our SROs have been just since I've been in the position and working together with them and preparing for the school year. They're right on point.
The people identified to be the school resource officers have been identified. They all have not gone through the training. Sorry, making sure I'm not misquoting anything, Max. But, so there have deputies that are assigned at each school, and there are deputies that are going through the SRO training, and so eventually they will all be SROs. But right now we don't have SROs, but we have SROs and deputies. Would that be true?
We have 5 people that have completed the SRO basic program. We have off-duty deputies that are covering the public schools. So not every off-duty deputy is a certified law enforcement officer as far as school resource.
We have all 2 deputies over there at the school.
Yes.
They're armed.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
But there's been people that have identified to be a school resource officer, but they're going through training. Because there's different things that a school resource officer can do that aren't a deputy can.
So is there a security program that looks at the person's driver's license when you walk up to school? Everybody has to have a driver's license check when you go into school, is that
At the entrance,
at the entrance?
as they come like into where the secretary is, correct? That's what you're asking?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's something new, I don't,
Now, we've been doing it for about 10 years here.
I don't remember at Bronson High School, so that's the last place.
It hasn't been in the high school, but it's been in the elementary schools.
Oh, it's been at the,
Yes, sir.
I think it's a good idea. I mean, locking all the doors in the schools except for one, so it's,
Right, and this is coming down not just from the state, but also by each district, that all classrooms are kept locked. Okay? And that's not been an easy thing to really follow through, but we've got to. And we're getting that in place. And that's a process to where doors are locked, classroom doors are locked, gyms are locked, those kind of things.
really.
Yes, sir.
Living in a different era. And so that as soon as the class is over, they lock and let the students out and then switch classes, and then the new class comes in and everybody's locked in.
That's the goal, that's the objective.
You're not there yet?
We're close. Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent. Has everyone had a chance to read over the minutes of the July 31st meeting? Are there any changes to the minutes? We have a motion to approve the minutes. Do we hear a second? If there are no objections, we'll pass this also by general consent. Seeing none, motion carries. We'll move on to our consent agenda. At this time, I will pull from the consent agenda for separate consideration the contract with Styro Green, I believe it's what it's called. I would like to discuss that separately. All right. Mr. Cowart, do you have any comments? Well, I forgot to ask, any additions or changes to the consent?
Changes to the addition to, on the second page, number 31. The beginning date is the 13th instead of the 6th. And the last page, administrative services, number 7. Chico Middle School should be Chico Middle High School.
So numbers. say, D, administrative services?
Yes, sir.
D is
Yes, yes, CMS instead of CMS.
Addition to, addition
Okay.
to.
Sorry.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Coward?
Most all of my questions have been answered, so the only thing I would just ask is about this NEFEC. So with Fontanelle High School, Chief Liddell, so can you shed a little bit more light on that for us?
Yes.
So,
We've been working with NEFAC to provide some support because those are the, as far as student performance provided, and we have new principals there, and to provide some extra support and coaching support for the principals as they go through. You'll have a couple of staff members from NEFAC to go through and help those folks with walkthroughs and what they're seeing and help them with the instructional practices. Just to give them a level of support and expertise that we don't have.
gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Turner?
Same area, but Mr. Edison, we're also lifting support to teachers, instructional coaches, and administrators. And so, new principals, yes, sir. What type of support are we talking about, please?
Well, it's Mark Bracewell and Rhonda Clyde are the two primary people from NEFAC. We walking around and going through and providing that internal training and working with those folks and providing support that they need at that school to help there.
In addition to the consent agenda, administrative services, D to D. Is that the same?
Yes, sir. You have some schools that are actually doing the same thing out of their title dollars. The school-based title dollars are not getting as many visits, but some schools are doing this to bring them in.
And these schools were picked
We predict,
because of a need,
yes, sir.
recognize that, those schools.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, I had one other
Yes,
question I forgot to ask. So, Mr. Lott, on that articulation agreement, did I see that, I know Florida Gateway allows Gilchrist where a kid in seventh grade can take, did I see that our class age dropped a little bit on that agreement?
Well, the statute actually changed.
The statute,
It has
that's
been
the
changed,
statute,
and
okay.
so you actually, I think, has already been in there. What they do is, though, they say that you have to have at least 4 high school credits prior to being able to take those dual enrollment classes. So
Okay,
even though, yes, it's open, that's their
that's their rate.
That's their part of the articulation agreement, not necessarily ours.
And that's how you get different colleges with different articulation agreements, allowing different access.
So that might be another thing that we raise up, reason why we need to have our choice. So, thank you.
That's all I had.
Were you done?
Yes.
Yes, sir, Mr.
I don't have a lot of questions. Kudos to the principals and staff at the district level to fill the positions.
We're still working.
Yes, sir. And I know, two, for sure, I don't know that I see it on, that I can find it on here, but Chris Wilder, for a lot of years, worked at Wilson High School, or Wilson High School, as an ag teacher there, and moving on to a management position in a different county, but also at the same time, I hired a pretty excited about this young lady, Austin Skipper, to come take that part over, and I think everybody's pretty excited about that.
I know a couple of mamas that are excited that had his experience as a teacher at the Nile.
And a good young guy who's interactive and ready for some, of course, you know we have good kids in Wilson.
They almost good prosecutor.
Yeah, appreciate it, that'd be it.
Thank you, sir. Everything I had to ask about has been addressed. There's no further discussion on anything, unless we approve the consent agenda as presented. Any opposed? Motion carries. Therefore approved. We'll now move into what I pulled with the Styro Green recycling. I do not know if I have any influence on this or not, but I have been less than satisfied with Styro Green's performance. And I have harped on this for a while. I don't know if we have an option other than this, but all my life I was told burning styrofoam wasn't good. That's what we're doing here. We have hot machines close to children with these. And more importantly, as they say in here, they will pick up the polystyrene blocks. I have visited schools where those polystyrene blocks have sat there for 3 weeks. The thing will melt the styrofoam, but the food residue remains. There's always roaches and odors and varmints. So if we are to re-enter into this contract, I think we need to hold them to the fire that they will do their part for their $350 per month per school for 10 months. I am pro recycling and the advantages to that, but I think there is a better alternative out there than this. And I am personally opposed to re-entering into a contract with Styro. Yes, sir.
Is there another contract, which I know Julie's not here
Julie's not
tonight,
here.
but is there a way to postpone it? Because this is an issue. I mean, it's not only an issue at the school, but things I've learned outside, and maybe some things that are happening with it after it leaves our place, and I don't think fits its together.
We'll bring it to the next meeting.
Is there a time contract on when they're supposed to pick this up, as opposed to just staying there, 2-3 weeks? Does the contract stipulate any time, are we aware?
According, Julie had always been said there was sort of like a gentleman's agreement that once a week they'd come back to you.
We'll bring it back to you as a regular agenda item for the next meeting. How about that?
And that would be easy to include that language, depending on what they would be willing to agree to. You could add that language in, it's not in the contract.
We'll bring it to you as a regular agenda item.
We just take out the end of 4 weeks.
All right, so this will be addressed at our next meeting.
What are they recycling?
Styrofoam food trays.
Styrofoam food?
Yes, sir. The kids' lunch and breakfast are served on these styrofoam trays. They dump the food in garbage cans, and these go in these burner units that melt the styrofoam down. And then these people pick them up, they turn into nifty frames, is what they used to recycle them into, frames that smell like fried chicken. It's really amazing.
They come in like this, almost shaped like you drive up to a bumper parking spot. Okay, so it melts it into that form, and then our ladies have to go in with a pry bar, pry that out of the bottom of the machine.
This black.
Yeah, you're right. All these 500 styrofoam trays comes in one little cube. It's nasty. It's
And it's
nasty.
funky. And you don't want to be within 100 feet of that joke when it's cooking it
Would you
down.
like a job, sir?
Yeah, when they leave it sitting there for a week, and there's chicken bones and all that, you can imagine what kind of critters show up.
So the trays are, got residue of food on them.
Right, it doesn't get hot enough to burn off that food residue, it just melts the styrofoam down to this black brick.
And we've been with them how long?
A number of years. And this is, you can look back at the record, I've griped and complained about this bunch for the better part of a year now, because this is ridiculous. Yes, ma'am.
Perhaps you could impose a monetary penalty if they're late picking up, that's always an incentive.
And these are all items that we will,
We'd have to prove
we'll have to find out what we legally can do.
Well,
Me personally,
it's all
I'm
part
for
of
let's find
negotiating
something else.
contract.
Anyway,
So we'll pull it right back to you.
thank you. At this time, Mr. Superintendent, can comment.
Just a few, and as y'all mentioned already, the Dean came tonight, and I have been for her mother, and also Carol and his parents, and courage for them. So, there's some recovery going on there. We talked, at the last board meeting, I asked if you wanted to see this policy, so here it is. And this is a Dixie County's policy on teacher recruitment. So I'm just bringing this to you for your information. And if that is something that y'all would like to consider, you need to direct me to do so.
So it's a reimbursement.
So I know this something you would like to discuss or workshop, there's any time we can do so. Just information tonight.
I think it's something we definitely.
One of the things I've been asked to remind you about, y'all get questions from parents and stuff like that. Just a reminder with the FERPA rules, more and more stringent, we cannot pass student names and emails. You have their initials and stuff like that. The best thing to do is pick up the phone calls. But electronic communication, we need to make sure we don't have student names in that communication. So, public records stuff important. Talk with, met with Chris and my name's John Blank, Katrina, with Representative Stone, and talked with that issue and some other legislative platform issues. I think Chris has pretty much summed up a lot of our conversation. We talked about that and a few other things. I'm on the NEFAC board that's bringing together, developing that. And there's a couple of things, and like I said, I talked to them about the dual enrollment issue that we have. So here's an idea that I threw out there that they kind of like. We've been after the 2 mil for years. We're at 1.5 mil. We used to be at 2 mil. And there are a lot of districts that are considering local referendums and stuff for all the issues that's related around school safety. So I floated the idea out there to them, and our board hasn't taken this up yet, but raising it or increasing the 2 mil, but that extra half mil out there for the safety and security, those increased costs. And just to give an example of an increased cost, you've got this year, we received dollars for safe schools. And the legislation came down and says these dollars are going to go to the sheriff's office for school resource officers. Well, out of those safe schools dollars, we used to pay the cost of all this software for the Raptor system. We have to pay annually for that. And now we're increasing. So now, we used to do that out of the safe schools. Now we're legislated to send it down here. And I'm not complaining about where it's going and what it's being used for, but now we can't, it's another cost that we were recouping, but we can't now. So, what do you think about that idea? That's mine.
I'd love for us to be just like the private schools that dual enrollment kids, dual enrollment, whatever college for free, so it doesn't cost. That's something that I thought about that we could bring up, the fact that a kid in private school has the opportunity, there's no cost to that.
And I do believe the homeschool is the same. Wherever they want to.
My recommendation is to go back to Bill.
Yeah, I'm going,
With
back
your
to
markers.
Bill with that extra half mil marked for safety and security.
Do we have more?
I don't know, but I know there's a change up there. Right.
I think it's going to be interesting to see. I don't know. I know that the platform, the 2 mil platform's been there. FSBA kind of talks about that. The appetite has not been for the legislature to approve that. Maybe this is the time to kind of, there was some that, I think Mr. Evans will probably speak to this, that kind of came into that meeting, that there was some that really wanted to try to kick open the door at that time at that meeting about the 2 mil. Obviously, we have a change in leadership. I know Senator Bradley is of the mindset that the RLE requires a little effort, that if I go buy a lawnmower today and it costs me $300, and whatever my tax is $300. Mr. Turner goes 6 months down the road and buys that and it's $350. There's not an increase in his tax. What's an increase is that the lawnmower now costs $350, but the tax is not an increase. So I believe that there will be an appetite for the RLE to be expanded. So that you're trying to recruit and capture any dollars where if you have a vacant piece of property, somebody builds a house on it, you now get to see those tax dollars.
So that's going to be relying upon your property appraiser, your county to change that. So to keep the rate the same as what Senator Brown has.
And I know that we have, Angela has it on the agenda for us to have a workshop on developing our reference activity. Okay. But the other item that we talked about in developing a platform for DFAC, one issue that we have in Philip-Morris schools is that the requirements for certification, especially for our elementary teachers, the test has gotten much harder. It is not that these teachers, these big folks can't teach kids and get student performance, but it's about passing, to be quite honestly, for the elementary folks, it's the math side. And I know some other folks, the reading portion, if you're not a reading teacher. But if you can get if the teacher has the demonstrated VAM scores, why can't the district locally certify them like we do a alt cert teacher? So that's a question that was posed out there, and we're sort of start thinking about.
Dan, is that another acronym?
VAM is the value added model. It's when every teacher from 3rd grade through 10th grade, that's an FSA tested subject. That's what they get a score from the state of Florida based upon how well they did in the class. Every teacher from 3rd grade to 10th grade.
Every year?
Every year.
It factors in, so it's part of the.
English language arts and mathematics.
Are those public?
I think after 2 years. Yes, ma'am. That's me.
Sir. Board comments, Mr. Coward?
I know you had an email, we were, so, yellow folder.
Yes, sir.
I would just appreciate if we would check into those issues. I know that's been kind of an issue with that, and I know our staff has raised that, and I know you're aware of it, so just if you would follow up and just kind of, we can maybe put that as an agenda item and kind of go back and follow up, like we talked about.
Yes, sir. I'm trying to find out why it's an issue. And I don't know if that why is on our end or the why is on the other board's end. Right now, but we're looking at that.
I appreciate that, because I know how important that is. I know, the theory of things that it was going to be something that was going to be helpful for us. So just making sure that they're following contract and we're getting the services for what we're paying for. So obviously, thank everybody for opening the school. So so far so good. So my phone hasn't rang. So not all good. So for anything too bad. So but appreciate everything getting going in Cedar Key and across the district. So Mr. Breezy, I'll pick on you a little bit. Leaks, Cedar Key, can you update us on like the gym? So I know I'd got a phone call Monday before school started, so where we're at about a gym leak and worried about it being on the floor after we had just finished the floor. So,
Speaking of the portable,
I wasn't getting there, so I was saving that for last, but the gym floor, so.
the gym floor,
Yes, sir, there was a leak, so
Yes,
that's
sir.
leaking on the floor.
we went up trying to make repairs to keep it from happening, until we get a roof on it. It'll probably get that call again at some time. And it's
I just worried because I know it's on the playing surface and we just refinished the floor, and I know that we have a sizable donation from the Lions Club to put away.
we're trying to have a long-term solution, but that roof is a different burden. The roof that's on it now worked perfectly fine for 25 years, but the building code won't let us put a roof on it again. So we're trying.
So we need PICO funding is what you're telling me.
Sir?
We need some PICO funding is what you're telling me.
Yes, we do. Well, no, we actually, but the problem is that has a lightweight concrete deck on it, which is used on mostly flat roof buildings, which uses roll goods, modified bitumen roofing, which doesn't lend itself too good to a slope roof of that size. The shingles were installed years ago before there was so much emphasis on wind load and building codes, and it was installed with a fastener that we cannot use now, although it worked perfectly fine. So,
Can you and I sit down?
Sure.
And figure out maybe what our
We got-
process is, especially since we've got somebody that's willing to.
we have a couple of options, and one of is a short-term solution that's going to cost us some money, and the other one is a more expensive long-term solution. And we're trying to kind of meet in the middle,
All right.
figure out some.
And tell me about our portable, so that,
We had the company, the inspection company come out today and take some samples and do us a protocol. And we will know more about that in the next day or two as far as.
I appreciate your help on that, Reed. So, thank you very much.
Mr. Turner?
My turn?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Since, I'm not picking on you, make sure those items at Yankeetown get fixed before you go on over to the man who's picking on you. Recognizing that each year, every year, you have a lot of shuffling that winds up going on. It appears that this year we had quite a bit more shuffling of personnel place to place than I remember in you can't say normal years because we don't know what is normal, but I think the district staff did a lot of good, including the superintendent, especially since the final decision came down to you, on finding the right fit in a number of places this year that needed personnel, from people leaving, people being removed, people being added on, whatever. So I'd like to express my appreciation to the district superintendent for getting that done. And I also recognize that Mr. Masters finally had enough of Mr. Asbell's badgering with being the principal at Bronson Middle High, so he got to move on in that position.
Man, I'm tight. Don't you worry about it.
Thank you very much. Now, that's all I have. Good job, all of you.
Mr.
I have no negative comments. Breezy, we got the, we went ahead and pressure washed in front of elementary school, so you don't have to send anybody over there. So we'll help you out.
I appreciate that.
No, sir. No, sir. I don't know, I guess, everybody resists change, and we've had quite a bit of change this year, but when you start to measure the effect of it, and we start our orientations the other night before school, the change feels good. Probably as much excitement as I've seen in quite some time. And my granddad always told me something, I think it's going to be read two ways, but new broom sweep clean. And around our area, the district, we got a lot of new brooms, and looked like quite a bit of excitement. So we look forward to starting new football season, new FFA, all brand new start. Miss Brooks in here, so I won't pick on her about cheating. So that'd be all my comments tonight.
We don't play football.
Thank you, sir. Since Ms. Brickens isn't here, I'll share her thoughts also. Chiefland and Bronson's gyms is hot, but they don't leak. Sometimes roofs are more important than air conditioning. Y'all ain't got no leak either. And our kids is tough, we can handle heat. Maybe one day there'll be money for all of us to be treated equally in this county, I don't think. That's another story. I will say, I ain't picking on Rick, you did an excellent job, and I appreciate Brandon getting driving lessons. You know what I'm talking about.
Thank you.
The other thing, I'm going to toot Bronson's horn for a second. The Bronson Quarterback Club, and some of the folks here were supporters of this, raised over $9,000 in their recent golf tournament. And it was a huge success, and we felt sorry for Williston, and we let some boys from Williston kind of slide in there and win that thing, because, you know, we got to throw the ball every once in a while. But we're looking forward to some exciting things throughout the county and throughout our schools. And I will also say this, I make no bones about that I have young children in our school system. And this year, for the first time ever, and I want to compliment Mr. Weber on this, and everybody else that had something to do with this, They came home and they said, for the first time ever, when it came time to discussing the safety issues at school and that, they felt that they were really educated on what to do. And I asked them what all they had been told, and it was really enlightening that we have really stepped up our game on that. I think that's great, and I think it's important that we have safety in force, and I also want to publicly thank, in Bronson, this happened, I don't know what happened in the other town, but the Living Hope Church came to our schools and prayed for our schools. Make no bones about it, our kids are protected very much by us as well as God. Prayer like that will go a long way to keep kids safe. And I think it's great that we live in a place to do it. If there is no further business to present at this time, we have to adjourn to executive session. Thank you all.